Mike, have you ever had clients come into your office, the folks that you work with, and they're really struggling with having a broken heart? They have such intense emotional pain, struggling mightily with their mood and their emotional regulation. And a lot of times it boils down to their fear of rejection from the relationship and being alone.
Yeah, definitely.
I have learned over the years while working with adults that have ADD, ADHD, OCD, some of the folks that are on the spectrum these days, what we once called a high functioning Asperger's, that was generally one of the subcategories that goes hand in hand with those conditions. It's not a diagnosis per se that you would find in the diagnostic manual, but it's definitely one of the bullet points that falls in the realm of attention deficit hyperactivity or ADD and those kinds of things. Today, I'd like to talk more about that, and let's all figure out why it is we're so brokenhearted when we go through a breakup on today's episode of HALT and Call for Backup. So, Mike, today let's talk about rejective sensitive dysphoria, and sometimes people call it RSD. It's a largely unheard of subcategory of ADD, ADHD, folks that are on the spectrum, folks that have OCD, and what we used to call high functioning Asperger's. We have noticed that when there's a breakup, when those clients feel rejected, especially when they're younger and as children, but you see this in adults too, where their fear of rejection, their fear of being alone just seems to crash down around them, and it causes such intense emotional pain. And we see it sometimes, like we're always working with people that are going through some kind of a breakup, a separation, a divorce, something like that, friends leaving them, family kind of pushing them aside for whatever the reasons are. And they're so tore up about it. When other clients come in, it doesn't seem to affect them so deeply. And I started taking a closer look at rejective sensitive dysphoria and started explaining it to my clients that were really having a hard time with their heartbreak. And it started making sense for them. And it gave them this light of hope that they're not crazy, that it's just a condition they're going through. As we start taking a closer look at the research behind RSD, rejective sensitive dysphoria, one of the things they're looking at is the link between the differences in brain structure and the functioning of our emotional regulation system. So I was curious, from your counseling chair, Mike, your case management chair, what comes to mind to you from the clients you've experienced or your own personal life when you've gone through a rejection, a heartache of some sort? Could be getting fired from a job, could be not being able to make it through the fire academy, the paramedic academy, those kinds of things, relationships falling apart. What's been your experience or your clients' experiences with emotional pain?
I think a lot of us feel like we're alone in this and don't understand. And you probably see it a lot more than I do because I specifically work with first responders. And there are cases where, they come in and they are broken up about, of course, relationships and impending divorces or separations, child custody, all the things that happen to a lot of us. And the regret and the guilt and the shame that's all sucked up into it. But if we start peeling the layers back and look back at where does it all start and how widespread is this?
That's a great question, and I don't have my fingertips on the research of who has it, how many people have it. But what I do know are the symptoms of it that seem very common across the board, not just restricted to folks that have ADD or ADHD, for example. Let's take on one of the first ones is, do you ever feel yourself or do you ever see in others um, a they're very easy to be embarrassed. They're very self-conscious.
Mhm.
That could be one of the first signs of a person that's got rejective sensitive dysphoria. They take it really hard, embarrassed in public, self-conscious, may not want to speak in public, and you kind of see this threading into social anxiety too.
They're like oversensitive about things, maybe easily offended, thinking other people are doing something to them or against them, maybe talking about them. Even the littlest things maybe, right, might
Yeah.
trigger someone off.
It could be as simple as, let's say you're working a program. Let's say you're working in recovery. You're going to your 12-step meeting. You're talking to your sponsor. Your sponsor says something to you that's meant to be helpful, but you get, what do the young kids say? You get butthurt about it. And it's so deep with you what the person said to you that you think about getting a new sponsor, or you get criticized at work by your supervisor. And if anyone else were to step back, they would say, well, that was helpful information. That's going to help me learn and grow and fall forward. But
Right.
the way a person that is very sensitive to embarrassment and self-conscious might take it really, really hard. There's been a number of my clients, Mike, that have come to me and said, yeah, my supervisor really ripped into me today, really embarrassed me in front of everybody. And I unpack it with the paramedic, for example, or the engineer that was driving because the captain got on the radio and, told him to slow down or whatever the pieces were. And they literally call in sick the next day to work because they just can't go in and face the crew, don't want to run into the captain again. Uh, we see that a lot, that kind of, embarrassment, or like in relationships. If we get critiqued by our mate, for example, does it lead us to wanting to learn more? Hey, sweetheart, or hey, sir, or hey, whoever, tell me more about that. It sounds like I really stepped out of line, or it sounds like I really hurt your heart or embarrassed you. Can you tell me more about that? Versus, yeah, pal. Well, let me tell you what's going on with you. You want to critique me? You got a bunch of fingers pointing back at you.
Yeah.
And they don't want to dive into that. They're too embarrassed. They're too hurt to look in those areas. So we see those kinds of things happening too.
Yeah, and sometimes we stay in these relationships that we know are not healthy. And we're not healthy ourselves, but we continue on thinking that, we can survive through it. It's for the kids. It's going to get better. And unless we like look at ourselves when something like this happens, yeah, I got butt hurt over that. It stung. It hurt me. You hurt my feelings, right? And then if you tell that to somebody that is in your life that you know, love and have, and they're supposed to be there for support, they shame you for it, or they make fun of it, or they just push you aside or say, oh, you're too sensitive. You need to get over it. I mean, how does that make you feel? And are you going to get help for that? Or you think that you're a loser because of this and I can never have someone in my life that's going to love me for me. And the biggest thing that a lot of us will learn if we're able to look at it and identify those feelings. So what is really helpful is if you identify what feeling in your body comes up first. If you're embarrassed, what does the embarrassment feeling feel like? Where does it feel like in your body? The term is, a lot of psychologists, counselors say, name it to tame it. So you name it. And once you identify what it is, where it is in your body, just like the book, The Body Keeps the Score, great
Right.
book.
Right.
But your body tells you, where things are happening, right? If you have that gut feeling about something, that sickening feeling, if you feel like throwing up, I mean, that's, in the main part of your body, right? That's in your gut area with all your vital organs there. Of course, it's very sensitive. Everything's going to be stored there, but like name it and say, okay, this is where, my embarrassment, this is where my anger stems from. This is what I'm feeling, and maybe be able to identify it before you get to it. Right.
Mike, when you mentioned earlier people being in relationships that maybe shouldn't be in those relationships anymore, every time, without question, across the board, every time I've worked with couples or every time I work with an adult individual who is in a relationship and they're staying in the relationship because staying in that depth of pain is much easier for them than it would be to break up, feel rejected, be alone. And the couples that come in or the individuals that come in, I ask them the same question. When did you first know this relationship may not have been the healthiest one for you? Across the board. I knew when we were dating. I knew within the first date or a couple of dates or 6 months. 6 months is an interesting time period because that's about as long as the research shows that people can hold those masks up. And then after a while, then they start getting cracks in their armor. Then the real, deeper narcissist, borderline histrionic, some kind of personality disorder, paranoia, the passive aggressiveness starts coming through, and you see it. And instead of inquiring about it, doing some work on it, most folks hope it goes away in time, hope it gets better. They wonder, a lot of the times they think they're the ones kind of going crazy. We see this a lot with our narcissistic clients, our borderline or histrionic clients. They have this ability to make us think like we're the ones that are crazy.
Jim, did you just read my bio?
No, does it say?
It sounds like my life. Good job. Good
Well,
job.
are they hiring people like that?
Right on.
Well, Mike, you know what? You're in the popular club, because once upon a time, I felt the same way. There's a lot of people that felt the same way, that they hope their relationship gets better. They hope that when they have kids, it'll get better. They hope time and distance will repair it. When the truth of the matter is, it was something they should have talked about and tried to work through, or figure out if it was something that was just beyond the repairing mode and they just need to go their separate ways, kind of a thing. And folks that struggle with rejective sensitive dysphoria tend to hang into those relationships. And the only thing that tends to happen, unless you do the work, is time and distance. You keep going down the same roads. You build up the resentments. You lose admiration for your mate. You lose respect for your mate that's bringing this into the relationship. And then there you are 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, staring at each other from across the breakfast table, wondering, how did you get there? And do you still want to be there?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's fear too. It's fear based. When you don't want to leave that, you feel comfortable in the uncomfortable parts of your life, and you don't want to change because of a lot of different things. But, RSD also, stemming from childhood, usually. Most of the stuff in life does stem from childhood. I used to always laugh when they would say, find your inner child, find your inner child. And I was like, come on, is this real? Is this real? It sounds so hokey, it sounds so something like I wouldn't want to do, but I understand now, because a lot of this stems back from childhood. And if you're able to take a look at your life, that's the biggest thing about being in recovery, or getting help for yourself, or seeing a therapist maybe for the very first time. And after a while, digging down deep about where it really starts from. Because a lot of times I block out these things from my childhood, comes up later in life under a different name or a different scene, and I don't relate it together. And it keeps on happening. And maybe these same people keep coming into my life, and I keep accepting them into my life. And I don't really learn that, hey, I need to take care of myself. I need to be, like we say, intelligently selfish with my recovery, with my life. And then maybe look at these things. A lot of us don't want to be diagnosed. RSD, I don't want to be diagnosed, bipolar, whatever it is that we're dealing with. No one wants to be called a narcissist, especially a narcissist.
That's right. True. That's why they call everybody else the narcissist. It's better to throw the smoke screen up and get people going in that direction versus, oh, you're finding the breadcrumbs that I'm leaving behind and it's leading you right to me.
Yep.
You're spot on about that, Mike. As we think about childhood, there was two things that came to my mind. One was this trick, this technique that I help clients with. I learned so many years ago about coming alongside. So when the little Jim inside of me, when little James is having a hard time with his emotional regulation, it's normal. It's common for a lot of people to struggle and have outbursts, or to go isolate or simmer someplace, or go take the baseball bat to the batting cages and beat the heck out of some innocent softballs. We can have these conversations with ourselves, Mike. Okay, little Jim is struggling with feeling of abandonment right now, for example. He struggles with something that he may have learned or experienced in his childhood. In my life, my mom and dad were great. World War II vets, Korean War vets, doing life from a small town in Ohio, brought us, our kids, all of us kids were born in California, Camp Pendleton, and there we are growing up in the Golden State. And yet there was conflict between my parents, so much so that I can recall all kinds of threats going on. I'm taking the kids and leaving. I'm taking the kids and leaving. And then a couple of times, my mom got us kids out of the 57 Pontiac downtown Oceanside and corralled us up while she's screaming at my dad, who's driving in the front seat, screaming back, "Get back in the car, bring the kids back in the car." And then now he's caught in traffic. And so my mom takes the kids and we go down one way, and my dad in that exhaust pumping, I'll never forget the smell of the exhaust coming around the corner and come right back to us again and get back in the car, and this conflict going on. So now you fast forward my life. How do you think I felt as a person growing up about someone saying, "I'm leaving you"? What would my response be? No, wait, come back, right? What else do I know at that point, unless I've had some deeper discussions with my family of origin about how better to go down those roads? So then in my life, when I got to be a young adult and started going through the dating and the breakup phases, I remember how hard it would hurt me. And on the category of things under rejective sensitive dysphoria are fear of losing control, trouble concentrating where our emotions when we feel rejected, low self-esteem, and we turn our feelings inward, or we can do the opposite and strike out. We become people pleasers because we're trying to avoid. Mike, what did you say? The 4-letter word, fear. What's our greatest fear? My fear is being left without my parents downtown Hill Street in Oceanside with this loud 57 Chevy circling around me, pumping out exhaust fumes all around me.
That must have been traumatic too. I mean, that's like a PTSD episode right there.
It is. And I know, we both know, Mike, the folks that are watching and listening right now are all going, "That's me, that's me, that's me." Because many of us have experienced that kind of conflict from the folks that are raising us, our families of origin, the people that are our caretakers growing up. And you can see how you think about that child psychologist, Eric Erickson, and his 8 stages of development. What's the first thing we do between the time we're being carried in our mom's womb till about 2 years old? It's safety, it's trust and mistrust, and kind of build it or lose it from there. So my encouragement to folks that are out there that are watching and listening is, you can take a deeper look at why it is you're struggling so hard when you have low self-esteem, when you want to avoid conflict, when you want to dive in and come in over the top with conflict, when you are a people pleaser, and you just feel this sense of doom when it comes to being rejected, to the point that you stay in unhealthy relationships, unhealthy situations, hanging out with your drug using mate. You're going through recovery, they're still using, and you'd rather hang with them and risk your failure at recovery and relapse versus just saying, "This isn't the right time for me," and moving on and working on yourself. Rejective sensitive dysphoria can lead us there.
Yeah.
Little Jim has a poor sense of himself or herself, and struggles with self-esteem. And they are becoming people pleasers. Now, this is where the conversation from Big Jim, "Hey, Little Jim, I know what you're going through right now. I know you're heartbroken, and rejective sensitive dysphoria is at the base of when I say there's nothing more painful than a broken heart, and there's nothing more painful than a crushed spirit." That in itself is like the definition of rejective sensitive dysphoria. So, Little Jim, I want to tell you something. What's that, Big Jim? I've been there. I know what you're going through. I know the reasons why. And I, as the adult between the two of us, want to help you out with this. And so, trust me, let's have these conversations together. When you start going down the road of having a meltdown, having a huge crying fit, feeling lost in the world, let's you and I talk, because I've been where you are and I know the way out. But it's going to take some practice and dedication to get that confidence built up that it's okay. It's normal to feel this kind of rejection. It's higher in certain people. Doesn't make you crazy. Just makes you have a big heart. Like, notice the bigger your heart, the more your empathy, the greater you're going to hurt. People with big hearts hurt bigger. And let's learn to be okay with that.
Yeah. Rejection is tough. And how do we handle it? When we get that rejection feeling, like I didn't get promoted, I didn't get hired, I didn't get picked first, right? I didn't get what I needed to get, or maybe my ego or my pride, and then I'm hurt. I'm butthurt. And then what do? Like, do I do the same things I've always done? Do I throw my sucker in the sand? Do I bury my head in the sand? Do I run away because I'm afraid? Fear, fuck everything and run, or face everything and recover. Or I heard recently, fuck everything and relapse. Someone told me that in a
Right?
group last week. Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a new one for me.
Yeah.
Fuck everything and relapse. Well, yeah, the fuck it. We say, we're done with this. I'm going to go to what I know. I want to escape. I want to escape this. I've seen numerous relationships that one of the parties is having, extramarital affairs for maybe years. Maybe this has been going on their whole relationship, even before kids. And they are still with that person. They still want that love. They still think there's hope, right? And looking at from the outside, looking in my mind's thinking, this is tough. This is tough. Why are you putting yourself through this? Now, when I'm able to look at myself and look at my guilty things that I've done in the past, and the guilt in my past that has turned to shame, because guilt is something that I did bad. Shame tells me that I am bad because of this. So I have to really dive deep, look in the closet, look in the backpack, take those things out of those containers that I carry around with me since the beginning of I can remember in my life, and start looking at these hard topics, these hard subjects, these hard feelings inside, and know that I'm going to be okay. But I want to start building my self-worth, my self-confidence, and, and talk about being sensitive and the RSD, and, talking to a therapist about this, or a trusted friend. It could help.
Yeah. Mike, take a deep look at a person who is a perfectionist. Nothing wrong with that if it's being used as a good superpower. For example, you are a home improvement expert and you're working on your own home, and there's something to be said for pride and ownership. I am going to redo my cabinets. I'm going to redo something. I'm going to build something, and I want the angles, the lines. I want it to be sanded. I want this to be sweet. Versus, I better do this so my mate doesn't get mad at me, and to keep them in this relationship. For example, that people pleasing thing, we want to take a hard look at it. When we become intensely focused on avoiding the disapproval of others, let's stop and take a look at that. It may lead us to avoid starting projects or tasks or goals when there's just a minuscule chance of failure or to be judged for it. I'm a good word worker. I wanted to do on this work on my house, but my mate, other people, my own lack of confidence prevents me from even breaking out the saw.
Mm-hmm.
And also taking a look at the fear of failure or rejection by going all out or striving for perfectionism. And the downside of all of that is the intense anxiety that could lead into my own struggles with my own self-care, my own downtime as a priority. Mike, you just said it a second ago. I am in recovery, and something didn't go well in my life. I'm struggling with this intense rejection feeling, and I get the fuck it's. I'm going to go out and drink. How many times have we seen or heard that? Or I've been working out really hard. I had a rough moment. I'm going to break out the glazed donuts and sit on the couch and watch whatever at 12 midnight, versus doing what your shirt says, which I love. No matter what.
No matter what.
No matter what, baby. I can cry. I may feel down. I may have an off day. It may be horrible. But now that I'm learning about rejective sensitive dysphoria, that should give me permission to be human, to be okay, to take a step back, halt, to reload, and say to myself, not today. No matter what, today I will continue to eat healthy. No matter what, today I will continue my sobriety. No matter what, today I won't walk off the job and have a meltdown. I will do the next intended thing and learn how to work through this piece. Getting that arrested development piece. I'm a 30-year-old, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, whatever year old person chronologically, but I'm responding like a punk because that's all I got. That's all I've got.
It's
I'm
that
responding.
willingness it's that willingness to change, making that 1 degree of change and the words that we use. Words are so powerful, you
Yes.
know? Words are their magic, right? So, if I keep saying, "I can never do this, I'll never be good enough, life sucks, this day sucks, work sucks, I have to wake up and do this, and my football team lost, and, my boss is yelling at me about this, and, the customer or client or citizen, is being a jerk about things. You know, if I'm always thinking that I always have to be perfect, there's nothing in this world that's perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. I've tried before growing up trying to be perfect, even talking about, I think you talked about woodworking. I remember taking a woodworking class when they still had it back in school, but during 6th or 7th grade. And my woodworker teacher, great guy, but about sanding the wood. And I remember getting it to a point like, this looks great. I mean, he goes, nope, use the, 150 or 250 or 500, whatever the sandpaper is. And until you get the dry, wet one. And I kept sanding it. And for me, it looked good. It looked good enough. It looked really good. But once I took his lead and put some, elbow grease into it and worked on it, it really looked great. It would look really great. So that taught me right there just to take that extra step. But no matter what, no matter how much I sand, it's never going to be 100% perfect. It's going to look really, really good, but I don't cut corners. And I try not to use these words anymore. I'm going to be the best Mike that I can be. I'm not going to be the most perfect Mike in anything, but I'm going to be the best. I'm going to give it my all and try to use better words towards myself. Because once I start feeling better about myself, then I could sort of like help other people and be there, be present for other people in my
Right.
life,
On that note, Mike, great points. I was reminded of Gordon Ramsay, that chef who a lot of the times just implodes at the chefs he's training and the competitions and everything. And a lot of times we could think, oh, he's such a jerk. He's coming across with such an ego and everything. But I remember this one episode where he goes to other people's restaurants. He kind of walks in and orders food. Everybody knows who he is. And then he goes and helps them redo their menu, redo their restaurants to get popular and make money versus going broke.
right.
I remember this one episode where this restaurant was so horrible. Not only was the food bad, but the kitchen, the restaurant was so filthy that Gordon Ramsay just couldn't even tolerate it anymore. So he told the people, we're going to shut the restaurant down today because my restaurant, one of my restaurants, just happens to be a couple of blocks away. This is in New York. A block can be forever, but just a couple of blocks away, that away. Let's go look at what my crew is doing right now while I'm away. And they know I'm away and they know I'm not going to come back, but let's go surprise them and see what's going on. So they walk over to this other restaurant and it's like, 10 in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning. They don't start their dinner service till like 4 or 5. What are their people doing? What is Gordon Ramsay's chefs and all of his crew doing at his restaurant? They all have white cloths. Each of them is assigned a certain area of the restaurant to buff out, clean, toothbrush it, everything, so that this kitchen table, this is mine. I'm going to have it spotless. And then your area's over there, then your area's over there. So the whole crew does the whole restaurant. And they do these hard cleans, these heavy duty cleanings once a week. And they make sure it's just spotless. And it is. And so the importance of taking time for ourselves to work on ourselves, getting into these situations where my emotions are getting the best of me, and maybe it is this rejective sensitive dysphoria that I'm hearing about. And there's, generally speaking, a couple more things going with that. There's probably anxiety and depression. Why wouldn't there be if you've got low self-esteem? And to learn to be good with where you are, but to start spending time cleaning yourself up like a healthy restaurant. And Mike, to your beautiful point that you bring up all the time, that it works so wonderfully, The way to change these habits is that 28-day challenge. And you all that listen to us or watch us, we preach on the 28 days to start changing a habit. So if you think you struggle with rejective sensitive dysphoria, if you have a hard time saying kind things to yourself and encouraging yourself, take the next 28 days every day and start doing that. You will notice that you'll go back and forth. I woke up this morning. I hate the world. I hate this. I hate that. Hang on a second. Let me start with my blessings. You know what? I'm very thankful. What are you thankful for? I've got 2 hands. What else? I made coffee today. Well, what's the big deal about that? I could taste the coffee. I can protect myself from the over hot water in the coffee, the temperature. I have that ability to take a spoon and put cream or sugar or whatever in my coffee, stir my coffee, pick it up, drink it, and do life. A lot of people would give everything they had for that ability. Start with your blessings that you have and build it from there. Every day for 28 days, catch yourself, catch yourself, catch yourself. The same thing when you're starting to ramp up with feeling rejected. You know what? I think I may be a little sensitive. No big deal. That's not a bad thing unless I let it get away from me. And I want to start working on that every day. I feel horrible. I cried all morning. I didn't sleep last night. Well, better take a look at HALT. Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Okay, let me start my day over, give myself a break, ease into this, say kind things about myself. It's no big deal if I'm really sensitive. When I cry, I'll cry. And let me start working through it now, whether I do it by myself, with a friend, get a therapist, get a group, maybe talk to my doctor. Maybe I need to cut the edge for a little while I heal. Maybe I'm a candidate for some short-term medication, and kind of go from there. But that's my encouragement, is to take the next 28 days, self-awareness, and don't give yourself that excuse like you hear a lot of people, Mike. Oh, it's just the Italian in me. I'm not slamming Italians. God knows I love Italian food. And I got a lot of Italian folks in my life. But you hear people say, that's just the Greek in me, or oh, that's just my horoscope. That's my my Scorpio, my Taurus. I'm just that person. Well, that's good if you live by yourself and you don't want to encounter anybody for the rest of your life. But learning how to mix it up in this world. Okay, so I have a little bit of a spiciness to me. What do I want to do with that? Does that give me permission to have the meltdowns? Or does it give me permission to take a step back? Wait a second. I've been doing this for a long time, and I wonder how it's affecting the people around me.
You got great points.
It ain't good for my internal health. Go ahead, Mike.
No, you got great points, man. Jesus, I don't know where to even go here. You got me going all different directions in my head. But yeah, I think so I'll go back to Gordon Ramsay in a second, but the last thing I remember you saying is about like being spicy, and all I can think of is all the excuses that I'll use, like, I am this and that because of this, or my mom and dad did this, or this is what I did and this is how I am, whatever it is, right? I'm like, I have this in my blood. I have this in my blood, and that's why I'm like this. And I tell myself these excuses to justify what I do and make it better for me. And maybe other people understand, oh, yeah, that's Mike. He's just this wild, he's just a crazy guy, right?
Yeah.
That's just who he is,
Absolutely.
or that's Mike, or that's Jim. What does that mean, right? Like, am I this person that you've developed in your head about me, and it gives me an excuse to do things and not take accountability? And the biggest thing in life, I think, is one of the biggest things is taking accountability. And just like Mr. Ramsey, how he runs his crew and his life, it speaks of not only integrity for what he does and the employees that work under him. I bet you anything that if you work under him, if you're able to work at his level, not only will you be getting paid very well, but you'll have a lot of pride in your job and a lot of respect for him. It's just like the drill sergeants we had, PE teachers, some of those hard teachers that really drilled it into us. That's the way they showed that they really love you. They want you to succeed. And of course, you want your business to succeed too. And I think Mr. Ramsey, he's a great actor also. So if you put all that together, your passion, your life, and who you really are inside, yeah, it's going to set an impression, because look, we're talking about him right now. And I remember some of those episodes thinking, what a dick, but I'm thinking, you know what? I understand it. Then I saw him in an interview and I saw the real him that I saw did down deep. So before I judge people, I try to like take a step back and I go, what are they off film? What are they behind doors, right? What are they in an interview about their heart when they become vulnerable? That's how I judge them. So, and life is life, and I think that just taking it one step at a time
Yeah.
and be part of the no matter what club, right? No matter what happens in life, nothing can ever make me go back to doing what I was doing before. I have the free choice of doing whatever I want to do. Of course, there's consequences. And of course, it usually takes suffering consequences before you get it. Me being number one point there, but
Everybody.
it took a hard knock before I got it. And thank God it did, because who knows what road I'd be on right now if I didn't.
Right, absolutely. Mike, like I've said before about myself, Mike, there are a lot of people out there from my younger days that I owe apologies to. There are a lot of people from my younger days that I would be embarrassed and mortified to run into again. But I'm always keeping my eyes open because they are owed an apology for me if they would even accept it. And thankfully, I grew up, and thankfully I chose to make some changes, and thankfully I chose some different roads and started working on all of those things to be the person, that I am today. And I always tell people when I meet them as clients, they think they think they're the world's worst. I just start laughing, and then when they're done, I'm like, my brother, you're in the popular club. I said, would
Right.
it surprise you that the therapist you see before you right now wasn't far off from where you are right now, or might have been walking down the same road? But it takes that, Mike, what you're talking about, that self-awareness, that willingness to make changes, that practice, that dedication, no matter what, for the next 28 days, I am going to make some changes so I can start developing new habits. And that's where all this is leading to. Uh,
Yeah.
be okay that you're not perfect. Welcome to the planet. None of us are perfect. Be okay that you may not be on your A game today. You'll be on your A game some other time. But if you're really struggling trying to find your way to the A game, if you're really struggling with people telling you, the people that you care about telling you, or maybe some you don't care about, but they have the courage to walk up to you and say, hey, you're a jerk. you know, could you please rethink your life? Maybe it's time to take a step back and reload and relaunch yourself.
Yeah, it's great that you talk about these things too, especially with your life. If you were going to bump into someone you don't want to bump into, that fear, right? You don't want to get in that situation because you're probably thinking of a lot of situations. It seems like it in your past where, like, if I bump into this guy, I don't really want to, but I'm going to make amends to him. And it goes back to fear. You're not going to run. You're going to face it, and you're going to recover. Recovery is a positive. You're doing something in a positive, just like the 28-day challenge. Start doing something now. Start journaling. Start waking up and being grateful. Start thinking positive words. Look at yourself in the mirror and try to start liking yourself,
Yes.
maybe for the very first time. And once I start liking myself and I had that self-respect coming back, yeah, I had that shame and the guilt all stuff down deep somewhere in my past. And if I continue to leave it there, it's just going to be such a heavy, dark weight. And as they say, you're sick as your secrets. I don't want to be sick anymore. I want to get well. And it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean that I am broken. I'm injured and I'm going to get healed from it. And eventually I'm going to be on the other side, and hopefully I can give my experience to somebody else. That might help them. It might save their life because it saved my life.
Absolutely. Mike, and a quick shout out to those people that are listening or watching that are in relationships or have family members that are struggling, is to, if possible, if you see your loved one or friend or coworker making changes in their lives that are positive, have the courage to come up alongside of them and tell them so. Hey, Mike. Hey, Jim. What's up? I noticed a difference in you. I noticed that you're not as edgy as you once were. I noticed you were speaking sweetly to so and so over there. Or I just noticed that you're being kinder to me and you're not as hard on yourself anymore. And I want to tell you how great that is. And whatever you're doing, please keep it up. Giving a person some positive reward. If you're in a relationship with them, What's their love language? Can you get them a cup of coffee? Hey, bro, I know you love coffee. I want to sit with you and thank you so much for the changes that you're making. I don't know if you're aware of it, but I'm sure aware of it. Or, if they need hold their hand or give them a hug, tell them so. If you have resentment in your relationship, I get it. We all get it. Can you push through that pain? Can you meet your loved one in the center of that boxing ring that you're in? And
Mm.
imagine that you're on the beach and drop those boxing gloves and hold their hands. That's my encouragement. Give somebody uh, some love, even though you're afraid. Well, if I give them an attaboy or an attagirl, and this could just be temporary, like before. What is it you say, Mike? I'll make the changes tomorrow. Or you'll say, I'm sorry. We're tired of you saying you're sorry. Appreciate it. Do something about it.
Yeah, make that action, and then when you see it, give them some positive affirmations.
Please.
And then in my life too, it's just falling on the sword, right? Saying like, I made a mistake. I'm human. Big deal. Okay, I'm not trying to make the same mistake again, but give yourself a break and then give it to other people. Don't hold it in. I mean, you can hold it in all you want. It's up to you, but I would rather know the truth about things. I don't want things sugar coated to me. I want people to tell me like it is, hopefully with love and understanding so I could hear it better. Uh, it's, life becomes a little bit smoother for me. I'm able to function a little bit better, be a better friend, be a better, husband, father, whatever, and employee, peer. I want to be that better person every day. And like you said, making that conscious shift of, making a plan for 28 days to change things. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to wait. Why am I talking? I'm going to wait before I respond. I'm going to go call somebody and ask them that I trust, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think about it? And, get their advice and take it and
Totally.
not worrying about being vulnerable.
And Mike, we speak to the audience that are by and large first responders, currently or former. And all of us have it built in with us already to go to an academy, to push through, to get hired, to make it through probation, and to go on with our careers. That doesn't happen by accident. That doesn't happen without hard work and dedication. So we all have that fire burning in us. I don't care where you are in your life. You know what it takes to make changes. We didn't all know about our uniforms. We didn't all know how to drive the emergency vehicles. We didn't all know how to defend ourselves or use a weapon. We didn't all know how to, do all the things the paramedics do and the EMTs do or the dispatchers do. We didn't know those things, or to be a sergeant or a supervisor or in the command staff. How did that happen? Time and distance, practice and dedication. And like Mike was talking about, tell yourself good things. I did a good thing today. What'd you do? I said a nice thing about myself. What's the big deal about that? It's a big deal. Why? I've never done it before and I've never believed it before. So that is worthy of this cup of coffee. I will
Mhm.
sit back and say, thank you, Lord. Thank you, world. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, whoever, for just helping me slow down and realize I can make small changes, never be dismayed at the day of small beginnings.
Yeah. I love it. I love when people come to me, when I see them really down in the dumps when they first get into recovery or ask for help, and they are everything we've been talking about. They might be suicidal, depression, anxiety, all that stuff, bad relationships, substance use issues, dependence issues. And once they become willing to view it and actually own it, they start seeing changes. Just like you and I see changes and everybody else in this world that are actually making positive changes for themselves and standing up and keeping their chin up and knowing it's going to be okay. I know we're going through rough times right now, and we're going to be on the right side of it. We are going to get out of this and we're going to get through it. We're going to learn from it and we're going to be better because of it. And I need to start putting more positive things in my life, because if I don't and I put negative things in my life, guess what I'll be getting? Negative things in my life.
Bitter water. Yep. Fill yourself with sweet water to get rid of all that bitter water. Absolutely. Mike,
right.
as we start slowing things down here, I wanted to just touch really quickly on wanting to hurt yourself or hurting somebody else. If you're going through really strong emotions, if you think you have rejective sensitive dysphoria, that it's so intense on you that you can't live and you want to hurt the person that wants to leave you, and then you want to hurt yourself or whatever those pieces look like, stop right now. Stop immediately. You probably have a severe case of rejective sensitive dysphoria, maybe some other things, anxiety, depression, whatever those pieces are. This is the moment to do the opposite. This isn't about hurting anybody or yourself. This is about learning how to push through and get to the sunrise that's waiting for you. And it's out there. And when you can't see the hope of future, lean on the people that can see it for you.
Yeah. Take it one step at a time. Yeah. RSD, a new term. It was new to me. Thank you, Jim, for that. And talk to your therapist, get a therapist, reach out to one of us. Be nice to your brothers and sisters out there, whether you're a first responder or not. I think that we'll be able to have a better life together if we're not just always fighting with each other, especially fighting from within. It's an inside job, Jim. Start from within.
Start from within and do it for yourself. Imagine you're just tossing the pebble into the pond and the ripple goes through you. Do it for yourself. The ripples will keep going and hit the rest of the pond at some point. And what people take from it, they take from it. It may have an effect on them. It may not have an effect on them. It may have a good effect. It may not have a good effect. It doesn't matter what they think. It matters what you think. Do it for you.
Love it. And don't forget to halt and call for backup.
Don't get fooled again.
Don't get fooled again, buddy.